Dortmund are on a bit of a barren spell in Germany, this season finishing 4th place but a whopping 25 points behind FC Bayern, and there's been no Bundesliga title since 2011-2012. But surely the squad's really good, right? Today I'm going to show the Borussia Dortmund hierarchy that they don't need to spend a ton of money because the answers to success could already be at the squad. So here are the leagues involved for this one. We've got the top 5 European nations, but we've also added in Portugal and a couple of nations close to Germany in Austria and Turkey. Next up we start unemployed, and then it's time to go on holiday. So now we're going on holiday till the end of May 2024, so all that data from all those leagues can be gathered up. So here we are at the end of the 23-24 season, and we're ready to take over Dortmund. As we get to Dortmund, we notice that Niko Kovac is still the manager, so that bodes well. In fact, the season's gone very well for them indeed. They finished second in the table, only losing 7 times, but they did finish 16 points behind Bayern München. And it looks like a good season, if not a little inconsistent, and there's no cup performance to write home about either. Clicking on one of the squads, so Emre Can, you can see that his pizza chart is fully decked out with statistics, so we can analyse who had a good season and who never. Here is the Dortmund squad that we will be taking over. It's quite a bulky looking one with a couple of players out on loan due to come back. And transfer wise, they did make some moves in the January transfer window that don't reflect real life. Dan Undoy came in from Bologna to play down the wing, and centre back Israel Reyes. So it looks like a tough act to follow from Niko Kovac, but that's what we're going to do as we add ourselves in and swiftly become the new manager. Right, so this is a big squad we've got to work through here. There's a couple out on loan, there's a couple in on loan, but Jan Couto, for example, is a player who is joining us from City. He's an attacking fullback, and first glances it looks really good. You can see how attacking he is, but his defensive side of his game is not great. This is where we look into it a little bit deeper, and we notice that a lot of the time he's played as a winger, so maybe the previous manager realised he wasn't the best as a fullback. His season stats show he's been good, if not spectacular, but this is a transfer that's pre-arranged, so we need to get the best out of him. Another player when you think of Dortmund is Karim Adeyemi, the brilliant explosive striker. However, when we have a closer look, it doesn't look like he's had a great season despite Dortmund performing well. 7 goals in 36 matches, and when we look at where he's played this season, it's a pretty even split between out wide, as an inside forward maybe, and as a striker. His overall average rating is not bad, but his performance as a striker hasn't blown me away there. And his performance as an attacking midfielder is even worse. As we look closer at his abilities, he's not a player I immediately want to discard, as abilities are ranked excellent in a lot of areas. So that being said, a player like Adeyemi and Jan Couto are giving me a challenge to find the tactic that will get the best out of both of them for season 1. So Jan Couto may not be the answer to play at right back. In fact, when I take a stroll over to this screen and drop down to player overview, when it comes to tackles per 90 minutes, he's all the way down in 36th. Tackles won, all the way down in 27th, and interceptions made, it gets even worse as he's all the way down in 54th. However, on the flip side, when it comes to chances created, he's the top fullback ranked at 18th. He also ranks high in terms of assists as well, so maybe it's just a case of getting his actual starting position and player role correct for him. Now here's where it gets interesting, because on the other side you've got Julian Rierson, who probably started a lot of the matches at left back. There you can see half of them at right back, half of them at left back. He's not an assist maker by any means. What he does do is a pretty elite defender. Most of the defensive metrics he's on top of. He's second for tackles won, third tackles per 90 minutes, 7th for interceptions, so that's his strength. So despite being unspectacular going forward, just 0.09 expected assists, doesn't dribble the ball much either, his strength is defending. So all that being said, the tactic we're going to go with and build this team around is a version of the 4-2-3-1 that Dortmund have been using, but one where the key players we've focused on should excel. We start with Jan Couto. I'm going to bow down and give him a role as a complete wing-back on attack, meaning he can go forward with reckless abandon, knowing that he's got 2 defensive midfielders to cover him should he get caught upfield. As for Adeyemi, didn't excel out wide, so I'm going to put him up front as an advanced forward. For the whole season, we've added roam from position. So what about the other defensive positions? Well, the good news comes at centre-back. Niklas Süle has had an elite season, doesn't lose the ball, wins it back, wins plenty of headers. His defensive partner wins the ball back an absolute ton as well, doesn't win as many headers nor tackles, but looks to be more of a ball-playing defender. Now last season they played a 4-2-3-1 with a double defensive shield there. Now Emre Can feels like he's been around forever, but his pizza chart is pretty elite for a defensive midfielder. The only worry I have with him really is his age at 31, but for now he definitely stays. His midfield partner for most of the season was Sally Özcan. Now he's a defensive midfielder and he does the simple things well. Doesn't lose the ball, wins it back, progresses the ball nicely, but that could potentially be improved. He's a player in a position that we'll keep an eye on. One player we don't have to worry about and a position we don't have to worry about is the goalkeeper. Gregor Kobel, absolutely outstanding. Preventing goals, loads of clean sheets, wins the ball back, doesn't lose it, completes plenty of passes. He is an absolute world-class goalkeeper. If I was to start right now, defence goalkeeper, pretty happy with. The defensive midfielders we could probably get by with, but we probably need to have a little look at them in the future. Interestingly, it's the attacking positions that are the ones that are under threat. So we talked about Adeyemi, not sure what to do with him yet, but I'm going to give him another chance. On the other side, Jamie Bino Gittens is an interesting case. In fact, he reminds me a lot of Garnacho from the Manchester United video that we did. His actual season stats of 28 appearances, 8 goals, 8 assists, with a good average rating, looks really good. However, when you look at his pizza chart for an attacking midfielder, his goals and his dribbles are good, but he seems to be lacking. He's played a combination of on the left mostly and on the right, but there's two ways to look at this. So his actual output of 16 goal contributions from 28 games is pretty good. His pizza chart, his overall performance isn't, so that tells me that there is room for him to really grow. And remember, he is only 20 years of age, so that could explain some inconsistencies. Julian Brandt had a good season, 13 goals, 10 assists. Pizza chart for an attacking midfielder is pretty good. The striker position is an interesting one. We've got Garassi here, who only played 24 times, not a lot of minutes either, did manage to score 11 times. Looking at his pizza chart, he gets a lot of shots away, decent non-penalty expected goals. He's probably worth a more extended run up front. So we've just analysed last season's first choice 11. Now it's time to have a little look at some of the players who didn't quite get the game time. First up, Rami Bensebaini. So he's a left fullback. He might get a chance with us, 30 years of age, but if I look at his fullback performance here, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good overall performance for the lack of minutes. Question is it good enough to start at left back? This is the player they brought in January, Israel Reyes, for centre back. He hasn't played a ton of minutes at all, so it's hard to judge, but from what he has played, he looks like a really good option. Now here's an interesting one. This is Felix Nemecha. Now, he's only started 10 matches. Most of the time he's come off the bench. That's his overall performance. But what gets interesting is when we look here where he's played 16 matches as a DM. Now he's more of an attacking midfielder, and if we look at his ability levels here, the flair stands out, the technique stands out. So he might give us an option. And if we look at the performance against other defensive midfielders, attacking wise, and in fact defensive wise, that is pretty elite. So he's given me a decision to make, whether he's going to be good enough for a starting role as a bit more of an adventurous defensive midfielder. And this is why you should check out the players in your squad that have got a decent amount of minutes, so you can have a little look to see if they're capable of jumping into the team. Giovanni Reina is another one of those options. He's only started 18 matches, but he has managed 4 assists. Most of his games were on the left, but he can play on the right or through the centre. It looks like a good squad player at this stage. There's a couple of players of ours that have been out on loan. Sebastian Haller has been in the Eredivisie and he's bagged 12 goals in 29 matches. And as a striker, in comparison to our strikers, he's had a good season. The other player out on loan is Yusuf Makoko, but he hasn't had enough game time to really evaluate, only 900 minutes. Now, if we're looking to improve this squad, we've got 35 million to do it with. So our main focus will be looking for a defensive midfielder to take the place of Emre Can, just in case injuries catch up with him at 31 years of age. So what I'm looking for is progressive passes with at least 6.50 and a tackle completion rate high at 80%. Salzburg player Mads Bistrup stands out an absolute mile with his pizza chart. But we've got to remember the Moneyball concept of getting players in on a decent budget. Nicola Fagioli, who is on loan at Fiorentina, has had a pretty good season, as has Fran Beltran at Celta Vigo, but at 5'5", he's maybe not the physical presence I'm looking for. So a bit of work to do, not as much as I thought we were going to do, because the actual squad is really strong. Just maybe 1 or 2 additions with future seasons in mind. As we return for the start of the season, there's been a bit of movement on the transfers out front. 6.25 million with the main player leaving us. Pascal Gross at 34 years of age, despite having a really good season for us, 5 million was just too good to turn down. The rest was largely loans and squad players. Now 4 players total came in, 2 were predetermined before I even got there. One was fullback cover Daniel Svensson, and the big outlay, 30 million big, was Jan Couto. That's not a deal I would have made, but we're going to make the best of it as we can. The deals I did get over the line was Mads Bistrup. 15 million seems like an absolute snip, and I've double dropped for that midfield position, future-proofing the squad with Nicolo Fagiolo. It means the team looks a bit like this, and you'll notice as 2 defensive midfield positions are up for grabs because we've got so much quality there. These are all the players that can play in that position. Even the centre-backs and full-back fancy their chances in there. But then you've got Emre Can, you've got Salih Özcan, there's Nicola Fagiolo, Mads Bistrup. We are packed. The rest of the team looks pretty solid. I'm taking a risk and moving Bino Gittins over to the left-hand side. But he's a natural playing out there as well. And the other gap at the minute is the striker position because we've got loads of cover there too. It will be one of Girassi, Haller or even Makoku to partner Adeyemi. So that's the transfer business done for this season. It says 64 million, but bear in mind 35.5 million of that was already done by the previous regime. So we've just bought in those two midfielders for the future. And what I like about this challenge in comparison to the previous one with Manchester United is I don't think they need a lot of work. What we're concentrating on here is getting the players in their better position and roles, largely down to their performances last season. At the halfway point of the season, we were doing okay. Sat in third position, so slightly down from last season, but we have only lost 2 matches. We've looked really impressive in some games, such as this one, beating AC Milan 3-0 in the Champions League with Adeyemi doing what he does best. Accepting Yan Couto as the attacking full-on fullback he is has worked out well. He's got absolutely exceptional pizza chart stats for attacking with 7 assists already this season. He's been helped out considerably by the defensive midfielders doing the work, and as you can see from Salih Özcan there, they're winning the ball back, allowing him to sprint forward. Adeyemi is definitely performing better than he was last season. In fact, he's already scored the same amount of league goals and we're only halfway through the season. Player of the season so far has been Bino Gittins, and it's good to see an improvement in terms of his off-the-ball work as well. And Ryerson continues to be the polar opposite of Yan Couto. It's mad how little he does going forward. Now the Champions League has been a bit tougher and we're going to struggle to qualify from this, it looks like. However, in the Pokal we're into the quarterfinals, where it looks likely that at some point we may well meet FC Bayern. As we come to the end of the season, despite this absolutely thumping win over Maccabi Haifa in the Champions League, we go out at the group stage. And in the Bundesliga, we got a very credible 2-2 draw away at FC Bayern. In fact, from January, the second half of the season, we only lost 1 match. That meant we finished second yet again, but it's a much improved performance from last season. We only lost 3 matches all season. If we can turn some of these draws into wins, we might get a little bit closer to FC Bayern. So really promising stuff. We'll go through some of the better performances in a minute and see which players we might need to replace. But if we look at the league table and we get it up here, we can see that 73 points, so still quite a way behind Bayern. But if you look at last season, where they finished with 61 points, we've gained 12 points. So there's definitely promise there. And wait just a minute, there's even more promise when you look at what happened in the Pokal final. We played rivals FC Bayern in the final and they couldn't deal with our start as Yan Couto supplied the assist. Bayern did get one back, but we take down the Pokal. And that risk to play Nemecha as a more attacking defensive midfielder seems to have paid off. And Gittins was outrageous, absolutely stunning attacking performance, and he's definitely getting better and his teamwork side of the game too. And Girassi was once again lethal up front. He started more times in a slightly withdrawn role, but look at that. Now, ironically, the one player who didn't have the best season was Julian Brandt, who was superb last season. There he is. Now, there's his attacking midfielder statistics. Not bad. He didn't lose the ball much, but it wasn't as explosive as last season. As a reminder, last season, 10 goals, 8 assists. This time, although his average rating was comparable, only 8 goal contributions. It might be that the more attacking lineup, we've got 2 strikers up front, just took a bit of the shine off him, so we'll persist with him. But I am looking at him being 30 and of a high value. We rotated quite a lot in defensive midfield. Now, Salih Özcan was probably the best overall player. Look at that. That is a really nice pizza chart for a defensive midfielder, but he did only start 19 matches. Emre Can started most of the matches because I wanted to get another season out of him. But now at 32, wanted by a host of teams and out of contract, I think it's time to let him go and let one of those 2 signings from last season into his spot. Now, the only other way I can see us improving this team is if we go all out attacking with the opposite fullback. As we've discovered, Ryerson, super solid. Gets the ball, gives it, progressive passes, so he moves it on, wins it back, doesn't give it away, but doesn't offer much going forward. So the big decision will be whether we cash in on him, because he is a wanted man, and replace him with a more attacking type of fullback. It's a big decision to make. The rest of the team, more than happy with it. We might need to just keep an eye on the strikers because Adeyemi will probably be wanted at some point. But to be fair, when called upon, Makoku did well, 7 goals in just 14 starts. And a potential replacement for Julian Brandt, if I do decide to cash in, is already at the club in Gio Reyna. Superb. And whatever happens, whether we bring someone in or we change a player's position, we want them to have the effect that it had on Yan Couto. Joint second in terms of assists, third for key passes, top for chances created, and crosses attempted, 400. So a big pre-season ahead, and I've started to build the shortlist. You might notice there's a few left backs, attacking ones at that, such as David Ram. This is because I'm toying with the option of having 2 attacking fullbacks either side, and if we can get someone like him, it would be ideal, although that value kind of rules him out. Another option would be Marc Cucurella, who's actually gone to Real Madrid, has found game time pretty hard, but when he has played, he's been pretty elite. Now this would be a potential riskier signing. Triffer from Rennes, fantastic going forward, but offers almost nothing defending. Now a more sensible signing, and probably a bit safer, could be Alexa Terzic from Salzburg. He's only going to cost between 9 and 13 million. My plan would be to use him in certain games where we can afford to use more attacking fullbacks. That would mean we'd start games with Ryerson and then bring Terzic on if we're looking to attack. The other thing I want to continue to do is lower the average age of this squad. I also need to find a backup player for Jan Couto, and with Sebastian Haller out of contract and leaving the club, I'm going to look for backup and competition for the striker positions to put pressure on Gerassi. In expected goals, both my guys featured prominently, and there was another player that featured prominently as well, Roberto Piccoli at Frankfurt. Not a regular, started 22 matches, outstanding expected goals and goals per game and shots. He might give us something a little bit different, and at that value could be an absolute bargain. Another option at the same club was Eli Wahi. Another option was over in Spanish football, Marko Milovanovic playing for Almeria. Now because this squad is that good from the get-go, I'm going to try and concentrate this season on lowering that average age and having a couple of players to do a couple of jobs. So I'm really happy with Nemecha. He's going to stay in that role as the more attacking defensive midfielder, if that makes sense. He's the one who gets forward a little bit more, takes on the riskier passes, and you can see that with his chart. Next to him, it was mostly Emre Can last season. So in true Moneyball style, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that position with 2 or 3 players to get the overall outcome that Emre Can managed. So that was Özcan. Bidstrup barely played. In fact, I sent him out on loan after an injury, but this season when he comes back, he will compete with Özcan and they'll kind of share that workload. You can see when he does play, he does the right things. So the board have given us nearly 50 million to spend for next season. We're going to generate more funds when a lot of these older players get moved on because we can still get some decent whack for them. Coincidentally, finances at the club are not a problem. They are absolutely minted. With the season about to start, I was right about the transfers out. We've generated another 88 million. We shipped out some older squad players. Sabitzer went to Marseille and Ben Sibiani went to Zenit. But the big money came from the sale of Niklas Sule. I did not want to do it, but they just paid far too much. 63 million rising to 85 for a 30-year-old had to be taken. But thanks to that shortlist we built at the end of last season with last season's statistics, we have made some signings. Brandon Soapy does join us for just 7 million for a backup fullback. Piccoli will compete for striker position at only 7 million, and Terzic will be the attacking fullback option. Obviously with that transfer of Niklas Sule, which was highly unplanned, we had to find a centre back. And this is where the £32 million signing of Rafa Marin came from PSV. I'll show you last season's pizza chart so you can see why I went for him. And there you see it, he had an absolute elite season after transferring over from Napoli. He is only 24 years of age, so he's 6 years younger than Sule. He could be a great option. Now granted, he may be taking a step up in level, but I think it's worth a try. So as we go into season 2, you'll notice that the first choice 11 is pretty much the same as last season, apart from the inclusion of Marine there. There he is, he jumped straight into the team. Like I said, the big competition for places will be the defensive midfield slot here, where a few players are going to share the workload to allow Couto to keep on bombing up. We'll change Ryerson if we need a more attacking option to Terzic, and the deep lying forward position, although Gerassi had a great season last season, it's good to have a bit of competition, and we've got that in Roberto Piccoli and Yusufa Makoku. Having said that, the season preview, they don't fancy our chances too much and have us down in 3rd position. Our first chance to prove people wrong was the Super Cup against FC Bayern. Having fallen behind early, we fought back really well. There's Couto doing what Jan Couto does, bombing down the right hand side and finding Julian Brandt. And after a quiet season last season, Brandt was there to score the second and give us the win. We've also done a great job of lowering the average age of the squad. It's now only 25, with our oldest player at 30 years of age. After that, we really got into the season and we started it with a stunning away victory at RB Leipzig, a booming 3-1 win at home to Leverkusen, a great away draw at FC Bayern, and even in the Champions League we looked good as well, beating Atletico Madrid. It means at the midway point of the season we've only lost 1 match and we're top of the league by a point from FC Bayern. Also in the other competitions, it's a much better performance in the Champions League, and we're in the quarterfinals once again of the Pokal. With the big task to replace Nicolas Soule, Rafa Marin has proved us right. He's been absolutely colossal at centre-back. And Yan Couto continues his great form at right wing-back. He's actually getting better in defence as well. And now fully settled as an out-and-out striker, Adeyemi has been elite. 19 goals in 21 matches so far. With Felix Nemecha developing into one of the best all-round midfielders in the league. Next to him, the combinations of players being the holding player, with Özcan and Bidstrup together doing a great job. As we got to the end of the season, there was disappointment in the Champions League as we ran Barcelona close. They knocked us out 3-5 on aggregate. But in the big games domestically, my boys were absolutely firing on all cylinders. In his role as rotational striker, Roberto Piccoli had a pizza chart to die for in terms of a striker. Exceptional. He actually forced himself in ahead of Girassi, who still had a good season, both of whom supporting the prolific Adeyemi, who has just been outrageous with 32 goals so far. And you join us at a pivotal point of the season. We've still only lost one match. This team has been fantastic. It was to Eintracht Frankfurt early in the season. We are 1 point clear of FC Bayern as it stands. And you know the next match is FC Bayern. We've also got the semi-finals of the Pokal coming up, and interestingly, Bayern have already been knocked out. And in that big match, well, it ended 0-0, but it wasn't for the want of trying, as I think we got the better of it. And in the Pokal semi-final, we get our revenge over Frankfurt, beating them 4-1 to progress to the final. And that result seemed to give us a boost, as the next 6 matches we smashed in the goals. But as we kept winning, so did FC Bayern. However, perhaps distracted by getting to the Champions League semi-final, they dropped 2 crucial points at home. That means as we go into the final game of the season, it's in our hands to get this title back. In the final game of the season, 2 of the standout players from this season stepped up. Goal machine Adeyemi scored the first, and then into the second half it was Rierson who actually provided the assist for Julian Brandt. And that 2-0 win finally restored the Bundesliga title to Borussia Dortmund. And we really capped off the season in the Pokal final in a balmy 9-goal thriller against Bayer Leverkusen. Piccoli scored the 6th as we become double winners, which locked down an incredible domestic season. So there you have it, folks. A stunning domestic season, topped off with that league title. Let me get it up here and you can see how well they actually did. 89 points, Bayern right on our heels with 86, but we only lost 1 match near the start of the season to Frankfurt, scoring 94 times, only conceded 29. What I like most about this is we didn't bring in an absolute ton of players. From day one when we got there, 9 of that starting 11 that you see there were at the club, and we've only brought in total a few players. In fact, over the 2 seasons, there's 8 total transfers, but 2 of those were already pre-arranged, so 6 total transfers for us came in, and pretty much all of them were a success. I mean, this man sums it up. Roberto Piccoli picked up for dirt cheap. He was at Frankfurt, bought him for 6.75 million, and for us, he has just been ridiculous. And the potential risky signing of the kind of unproven Rafa Marin, I mean, he is a colossal. He won more headers. In fact, he was probably overall a better player than Soule was for us. But we've managed to make good players better by putting them in their preferred roles. Remember the mess that Yan Couto was in when we first got here. He didn't know if he was a winger or a fullback. He was no good doing either, really. We just said to him, you're a complete wingback, go for it. Outrageous, 20 assists this season. And Adeyemi up front, few little niggles, but he still managed 35 goals this season. Absolutely blasted it with 23 in the league in 32 matches. I mean, I could go on and on about the performances. Nemecha's now a really good defensive midfielder. Özcan shared the load really well with Bidstrup. If he wasn't performing, we'd take him off, and then we'd bring on Bidstrup, who did a similar job. Both of them can win tackles for days. And after a bit of a quiet season last season, Julian Brandt came back into it this season with 17 goals, 20 assists. Didn't ask him to do any defending, just said get up there, do what you're best at. So with the squad being made a lot more streamlined and a lot more younger, for a deficit of what, 19 million? I think that's a job well done.